Everyone for joining us today for the June session of Matt's Chats. Really excited for this conversation with Pashmina and Kevin and Charles to talk about, the hot topic du jour, or maybe du year, du decade, which is adopting AI and automation. And I think it's always interesting when we have practitioners and people who are building AI tools and automation into their operations to really talk about it firsthand. So, really excited for this conversation on how to adopt AI automation, where the technology is taking us, how it can actually deliver results, and not just talk about AI, but a few practical use cases of how AI is creating results in your brand operations and fulfillment operations. So, really excited to be here with this incredible panel. Charles Ickes, who is the CEO and sponsor of this month's webinar, CEO of Bergen Logistics, a really great partner of ours at Third Person, a company that I've known for many years, and Charles and I have known each other for many years as well. And we'll get into that in a moment. But Bergen Logistics is a leading global 3PL provider, and Charles has a really unique vantage point, being that he's also the CEO of CloudX, which is Bergen's proprietary WMS software. It really gives him a deep insight into the intersection of logistics and SaaS. Also excited for Kevin to be here, Kevin Johnston, the CTO of CloudX, who once did work at Bergen Logistics. And I was telling Kevin earlier before you got on, Charles, that it took me until this morning to understand the relationship between CloudX and Bergen. But now I'm very aware of that, and I feel like a bit of a doofus, but it wouldn't be the first time that I felt that way. But excited for Kevin to be here, who's actually engineering these highly scalable and data-driven warehouse management and AI solutions. And finally, Pashmina, Shon, the C, well, you're the president, not the CEO. Is that right? Oh,
Sure. Yeah.
you are the CEO. You're the CEO
Yeah.
and the president and co-founder of Bar and Cocoa, a chocolate marketplace. One of my favorite. It's a wonderful business. We've purchased products from them. Pashmina was at actually our last retreat where Charles was as well, and she provided a whole host of samples to all the attendees who were all able to sample some of the great chocolate that she sells online. And in her role, she manages the end-to-end operations for fine chocolate, which is a category that we all know requires much precision and speed to get the product to customers on time and safely. So now that I've made very brief intros for each of you, we'd love for the three of you to maybe provide quick intros, maybe 60 seconds on your background, on your role, what you do at your respective businesses, the company, and maybe a point or two on how you're currently interacting with automation in your day to day. So maybe we'll go Charles, Pashmina, and Kevin. So Charles.
Yeah, Charles. I've been with Bergen Logistics for about 8 years now. Holy cow. Started as the VP of operations and have progressed to the CEO role. CloudX, we purchased CloudX, which was actually a different name 15 years ago. So Kevin and I have been working hand in hand for quite a while. My day to day is more, unfortunately, running the business than deep inside all the weeds around the engineering. So that's Kevin's point of view, so to speak. We were purchased 4 years ago by a global group called Alanders. So we are the North American subsidiary of Alanders, and we do global fulfillment operations. And due to our size being we're about 10% of Alanders size. So we are sort of like the innovation center, and we start all these projects that are a little pie in the sky and see what we can come up with. So we're the R&D arm, I'll call it. Back to you. Oh, Matt and I know each other from Rent the Runway back in the day.
That's right. Yeah, you joined in 2011. Was that right? Maybe
Something
2010?
like that. We kind of missed the overlap a little bit,
We
but then
did. We did. You cleaned up all the crap that I left, all the mistakes I made. The first 2 years of their operations, you came in and you must have said, "What the heck is going on with this place?"
Who was
I
this
said,
operator?
"Whoops,
Man.
I'm sorry." I mean, I was young. I was early in my career. I didn't know what operation. I could barely spell FedEx when I joined Rent the Runway back then. But yeah, lots of great war stories. Yeah, Pashmina.
Hi everyone, I'm Pashmina. I'm the co-founder of Bar and Cocoa. We are a e-commerce and wholesale business. We sell the best craft chocolate from makers around the world. My role, I wear many hats across purchasing, supplier relationships, inventory, fulfillment, marketing, and customer experience. As Matt mentioned, chocolate is a pretty brutal fulfillment category. It's fragile, it's temperature sensitive, it's inventory heavy, so fulfillment's not just about pick, pack, and ship. We're constantly thinking of ways to automate and remove the decision-making fatigue that comes from when to ship, how to ship, and how much ice to pack in each box. As far as AI and automation and how we're using it now, I mean, of course, it's changed dramatically in the last 6 to 8 months, but before that, we did a lot of things where we're automating things like weather and making sure that our pick, pack, and shippers weren't constantly looking up the weather. So it's really about making that decision process easier. And now, I think now it's even more so about the coordination of all that data is where AI really can make things even easier and even tighter. But yeah, back to you, Matt.
Charles, do you before we get to you, Kevin, Charles, do you does Bergen do any fulfillment for chocolate or highly temperature sensitive goods?
We have done some ice packs previously. Primarily, we're in fashion lifestyle. Anything shelf stable, we definitely get involved with. Calling chocolate shelf stable, sort of, kind of. You need temperature control to some extent. So we do have those type of operations, but they're not extensive. It's just one building that's temperature controlled. So
Mm.
Great. Kevin.
Yeah, so Kevin Johnston, CTO of CloudX. I started as a developer with Bergen about 12 years ago. As Charles said, I guess the WMS, and that's what we called it back then. It didn't have a name; it was just the WMS. Was acquired about 15 years ago. So I worked on the system from the very beginning. We kind of grew up together within Bergen, and then it got spun off into its own product, its own company, CloudX. So I'm kind of in charge of the technologies and doing the advances within the system. Luckily, we have a CEO who is very in tune with technology and wanting to be cutting edge. So we don't like to have status quo. So we're constantly pushing cutting edge. So hopefully, I can kind of bring that lens to this conversation to really talk about what's cutting edge and what's just hype, right? Because there's so much going on with AI that a lot of it's hype, and where's that line?
I think the software division when I started was, what was I, like six of you, maybe?
Six people, yeah.
Yeah, some of them in Moldova, a couple people onshore, and what are we pushing 60 now?
Yep, we're in the
Wow.
mid 50s now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well. So yeah, my next question for you, Kevin, which I think we've answered by suggesting that you've got 60 people. Um, Safe to assume that it's not just an internal technology. It's something that you sell. It's third party, right? Anyone who fulfills, whether it's a 3PL, another 3PL, or a self-fulfiller, can use CloudX to power their operations. Is that fair?
Absolutely, yeah. We've built this as a SaaS system. Originally, it was really created for the fashion and lifestyle, but as we've been rewriting this and modernizing the system, it is now able to really go into many different verticals, and there's different industries that it can be used in. So we do have a couple of external clients that are using it, so it's not just an internal tool anymore. And beyond Bergen, as Charles had mentioned, Landers had bought Bergen. It's also our parent company, and it's being used within the other subsidiaries as well.
Got
Yeah,
it.
we've got it out in 22 buildings and we hope to have 40 in the next 2 years. So
Wow, that's great. Um, yeah, let's get into things now that we've got the sort of the context and the intros out of the way. I want to start with the current landscape. What's happening right now. So maybe Pashmina, I'll put you on the spot to kick things off. I know you started touching on this in your intro, but given that your purview, your responsibilities within the business are, managing vendor partnerships or relationships, inventory, the fulfillment and shipping. Kind of curious to dig a little bit deeper into like where automation and AI tooling is actually influencing the business today, your business today. Is it, are you sort of limited to using or do you limit using tools like Claude and GPT and sort of what I might consider to be entry level tooling, or is it kind of more systemic across your operations? And if you have got maybe an example or two that you can share, whether it's related to the realities of shipping fine chocolate and temperature controlled products, other data sources in your business, we'll love to kind of hear a couple practical applications of it.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, here's the thing about AI in my world, right? It can't wrap a box. It can't change the delivery it can't change the temperature of a delivery truck. But so what we need to do is figure out how to ship it in a way that doesn't blow the margin and have melted chocolate and a bad experience show up to the customer. So early on, before the advent of AI, we were building things using Google App Scripts and APIs and make.com. So we would pull in weather data from two different sources and spit it out on the invoice or on the pick sheet for all of our pick, pack, and shippers so that they can see what the weather is like in the horizon that it's going to travel. And then based on that, we can kind of create these tight bands around weather and tag it. And according to the tag, it tells you how much ice is needed in the box. And we have kind of like a formula we use based on the net weight of the product and the amount in the box. And, accordingly, we put that much ice. So these kinds of things kind of help create a routine for our pick, pack, and shippers without them having to make those decisions. And then with AI, instead of it relying on these like kludgy Google Apps scripts that we're running in the background, we just kind of migrated all of that into a completely custom app that now runs on Google Cloud. And it's a lot smoother. It's a lot more recent. So like before we were running these cron jobs like every 5 hours, now we can do it every 15 minutes. So the data is cleaner. It fails less. And now, we're actually pulling from three different APIs for the weather, just because like some weather stations are better than others. So it's useful to have multiple points of data as well. And, I think when people think of AI, they think of all the sexy things with regards to like customer focused things, but I like to look at the AI stuff and automations that we're implementing and really kind of take care of the plumbing, like the boring stuff that keeps the business running and keeps it operating at a high margin and a high revenue per employee. So when I look at where the wins are, it's really infrastructure. It's about where we can remove decision fatigue, where we can remove things where people are repetitively doing things. When we started, I'm not kidding you, but we weren't shipping that many orders, but we were literally every order that would come in, we would copy and paste the city and state and zip code and type it into Google and look up the weather. Now that's all gone. And it's these kinds of small wins that make the business a lot more exciting to manage, because now we're not working on these boring, repetitive things and we're letting AI and automation take care of that. Another example, I think, is, and it's like a really simple one, but reconciliation. We send out a PO, we get an invoice back. It doesn't always match. And a lot of times, like it wasn't very easy to kind of automate that away. And now with AI, we can just throw it into Claude, and we have a Claude skill built where it will reconcile the PO and the invoice that we receive from a vendor and tell us where there's a mismatch and fix those issues for us. I heard recently I was reading a thing a few months ago where there was some company, and I can't remember, I wish I could remember which company, but they literally had 4 people on staff, full-time job, and their entire job was just reconciliation. And now that, those types of jobs are going away. And in some ways, I think it's good because it just sounds like that's the type of job where there's not a lot of joy in it, right? So it's almost better if, like, for those people to do something more creative or more innovative, or use their brain power in a different way now that we have AI that can do the heavy lifting for those kinds of things. So yeah, I mean, it's crazy to think how much time reconciliation took some of our staff members, and that's gone away.
Have you been able to uh, reduce headcount as a result, or not increase headcount as much as you would have maybe 3 years ago? Because now you need one less merchandiser or planner or AP/AR person. How has that impacted you?
I actually take the optimistic view on this. I don't know if any of you watched like the All In Pod, but there was something that David Friedberg said recently that started trending. And he says that they've actually hired more people because they have more creative problems to solve because AI can help do the heavy lifting. And I kind of feel the same way. We've actually doubled our headcount because we've been able to grow faster, we've been able to do more. So I'm really excited. I think with AI, like, I even feel I have more confidence in bringing on someone that may not be C-suite. Maybe they're a little more junior, but because they have AI to assist them, they can do, like, it's almost like this 80/90 rule. They can get 80% of the job done with, like, at like half the cost. And so, yeah, we're actively hiring people for these roles where before I was maybe holding this knowledge or this process too close to the chest, and I was too afraid to let it go. Now I'm more confident and able to, like, say, let's keep expanding, let's keep growing. And we've built all these new automations and tools and things to help assist everyone in their new roles. So we've hired recently for somebody to be dedicated on B2B accounts and our wholesale accounts. And then I've also recently hired someone to manage all of our inbound shipping and imports rather. And before, I felt like I couldn't hire for those roles because it was too expensive to do that. So I'm really excited about what AI brings, and I think I'm hoping that in the long run, while we'll see some displacement with jobs, I think in the long run this will be like the Industrial Revolution, where we'll actually see an uptick in the number and types of jobs that AI brings.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd have a tendency to agree with Pashmina on this. I think I'm going to steal your comment, Kevin, about you're not going to lose your job to AI, but you will lose your job to somebody who knows AI. And generally, I've had a couple opportunity costs in hiring, but it's like it's a role that somebody's resigned from, and it's like, well, we've got this AI agent doing this, and we've got this machine learning kind of module that can support it, and maybe we don't have to backfill it, right? So that's sort of where we're going, but we're certainly not in a position where, like, yeah, we're going to let go of people. That is not it. We still need those decisions made, but AI is a great partner for you.
Yeah, it's definitely a great partner. It's funny, you're starting to see some of these companies that are coming out and saying that the AI, what they're spending on AI is actually more than the people that they let go. And they're finding that they're actually spending more money. So it'll be interesting to see how this evolves.
As the true cost of the AI token starts flowing through, I think
Yeah.
there may be a lot more balance between the human and the AI, and the value may not be quite as large of a value prop until there's some efficiencies on the AI side.
Don't you think
Yeah.
that's going to happen pretty quickly, though? The efficiency and the cost per token?
Um, I would suspect so, but the amount of money flooding in and into this segment, it's hard to say how fast that will normalize. You would think it would, but we're still out on the bleeding edge of this, and there's just throwing money at this, and it depends on how they monetize it, right? So if they said we're going to charge off all our bleeding edge tech and all our R&D to the people using it, then yeah, your token costs are going to go through the roof. I
Yeah.
mean, they're still supporting most of the cost here, and if you went in their P&Ls and tried to figure out the real cost of a token, I don't think any of us would be very happy to use AI right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Charles, I want to stick with you for a moment. I'm curious when brands come to Bergen? Maybe they're some of your current customers. I mean, I know you work with some of the leading, most recognizable apparel brands globally. So whether it's, an incumbent customer or, you're going through an RFP, with a brand looking to potentially work with Bergen, um, what are you seeing as their like expectations regarding AI? Like, are they asking about how Bergen, maybe via your technology, via CloudX or your operations, how sophisticated you are? I'm curious, like how it's coming up from the brand or customer perspective to Bergen.
So I would say from an AI perspective, I don't hear a lot. But from a data perspective, I hear a ton. Um, one of the things that we did, and you're going to hear, this is very thematic of what Kevin and I are going to be talking about, is like if you haven't started down this AI path, your starting point is get your data clean. We started down this path probably 2.5, 3 years ago and realized very quickly our data was garbage. So then we spent 18 months just cleaning up and creating a data warehouse and good data. That is a big lever for us because now it's like we have an API to get into, we're using Databricks now. And if a customer wants their data, we can give them permissions to access their data through Databricks and they can pull in anything they want. So that we're seeing as an advantage. The other advantage from a technology standpoint is the fact that CloudX systems allows you for a single point of integration, and then you have a global reach. So if you integrate once to us in North America, you now have access to the UK, Europe, through Asia Pacific. So there's 22 sites and growing now across the globe, and we're seeing technology is still a big driver. Data is a big conversation. AI is what's driving our efficiency internally through some agentic AIs, and then chatbots and eventually we're going to get to the predictive part of that, which right now we're just finishing up the chatbot, and by end of the year we're going to have predictive pushing to the operation floors where they'll see the efficiencies, and that flows through the pricing.
Yeah. Kevin, a question for you. From an engineering perspective, um, what makes a warehouse management solution truly data driven, versus just being like a digital filing cabinet?
Hmm.
So I think it's really kind of what you're doing with that data. I mean, the data's still there, it's in the filing cabinet, right? But you know, in before it would wait for people to come and look at it, i.e. reports or charts or so you were accessing that data when you needed it. Now what we're doing is as that data lands, we're starting to use that as well as the past data to put machine learning models together and starting to go down that road of predictive. So and if you want to stick with the filing cabinet reference, I mean, if you just took and threw all your files into a cabinet and then said, go find me this one file, it's going to be impossible. So it's the same thing with your data. If you don't have it structured properly, it's not going to work for you the way that you need it to. So, having that filing cabinet, yeah, it's there and the data's in it, but it needs to be structured right, and you need to be able to act on it the moment it lands, not just when you need it. So you need to get away from that reactive to the predictive, and that's what we're working towards. So yeah, I think that being truly data driven is just making sure that you have that clean data um, and
One area that we find very interesting is
yeah.
the AI calculator for pricing. So we put an RFP into the system, what the product type, and they obviously the website of the account, and then the tool goes through and looks like customers for us. And then because we have all of our units per hour for the customer, they say, hey, it looks like these 5 customers. Okay, now we have a baseline for what we think the UPHs are going to be for receiving or picking or packing. And then, of course, that same tool ties into a carbon dioxide, CO2 emissions calculator. So we not only can pass them pricing data about what this is priced at, because based upon these customers are similar in the similar building or the same building, And then there's also your carbon dioxide stuff. So yeah, I mean, the real-time information that we can flow out and the calculations around this, I get ops margin on a daily basis now. I'm like outstanding. And I can look at every building and see what my ops margin is. And immediately when there's a hiccup, you're not waiting until, 5 or 10 days after the close of the month to find out that you really busted on your ops margin. It's like we can be so proactive and adjust in real time that we've really stabilized those numbers and we can see when we're off track very quickly and adjust to it. So I love it.
Kevin, I want to go back to you on the predictive modeling piece because I think that's really interesting, and I haven't heard of that, from other WMS systems that I'm privy to. Like, I'm curious, how do you engineer that system that really like anticipates um, different supply chain friction or bumps. Like without maybe feel free not to share the whole secret sauce there, but like what are like I sort of think of it as like a calculus, right? There's like lots of variables that you're sort of solving for, in tandem. Like how are you like designing it? Like what are maybe a couple variables that are particularly critical to the success of the system?
So not to beat a dead horse, but it's the data. Like you need that data in good shape, and you need a good history of that data, and then you can use that to train your machine learning models so that it can recognize patterns. And that's all AI is, when it comes down to it. It's pattern recognition, whether it's numerical or what have you. So if you don't have that data structured and in good shape, you're not going to be able to do predictive. And when you start to apply this to supply chain, or really kind of the pick and pack operations and the fulfillment, you'll start to see the patterns. Oh, you may need to move two people over to picking, or else you won't get through all these orders today. Or, it's getting close to the time for UPS to pick up if you don't get. So you can start getting into that predictive, and now you're getting away from the reactive. But all of that takes a massive amount of data to start to train these models. So that's always going to be your starting place.
Right.
The key components of what we're looking at on predictive side is like how are your UPH trending, right? Or does it look like you have a problem in your department around your UPH? Are you going to miss SLA? If so, here's a recommended group of people that have been trained or worked in your department that have, good UPHs. Their department they're currently in isn't up to that. They're actually going to trend ahead of SLA, so you can pull them. Your pick paths are calculated with AI. The digital twin is calculated with AI. So there are a lot of very cool. I'll be honest, I was bored to death at 3PL because it's not really all that exciting. But man, this AI stuff is super cool.
I love it, making a unsexy industry a little bit more engaging.
Yeah.
We've got about 15-ish minutes. I have a couple more questions, and then just a reminder to the attendees, feel free to post any comments or questions in the chat right at the bottom of your Zoom screen here, and we'll try to get to them in a few minutes here. But I do want to go back to Pashmina for a moment, and I just realized as I was looking around my desk, I've got the remnants of the chocolate that you gave us a couple months ago. This was full, but now I've got just what's this? The
Fire tree, yeah.
72% dark cocoa, and we've got I don't know, this
I think that's 80%, yeah.
80%. Yeah, that's a little dark for me. I'll give it to my wife. I'm more a milk chocolate guy, white chocolate guy, which I know you have plenty of at Bar and Cocoa. Um, but kidding aside, you've built a leading Shopify destination. So I'm curious, as you've been building the business and in recent months, as AI and tooling has really accelerated, like how do you evaluate partners or logistics providers, whether it's your shipping carriers, fulfillment, packaging, et cetera. Um, like how do you determine if their tech stack or capabilities are actually going to help streamline your business and improve your business rather than just adding another layer of complexity and just another app or integration that you need?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think there's a lot of sexy demos out there, and that's it's not about how smart the tech is, but it really is about, is this going to improve the lives of my employees, right? Is it making their jobs easier, and is it coordinating something that we can't do ourselves? So if it doesn't change Monday morning operations, it's just a dashboard. So in that vein, I think, one of the things we can think about when it comes to AI is, I think a lot of the analytics tools are kind of not something we need to rely on anymore, or need to adopt, because AI is starting to do the heavy lifting in that area, and I think it will start to do even more. Um, so it's really about not just automating things for the customer, but the back office. And leaning into what Kevin said earlier, it is really about the data, right? So as people kind of dive into AI and automation, they always ask, like, where do I start? I said, start with clean data. Like, make sure your data is super clean, and start spoon feeding that, even if it's manual, and make sure that's super clean. And that will just make the AI really shine when you start to use it and you ask it questions about the data that you have.
I love that. One final sort of quick question on this in this section. Um, Maybe Pashmina or anyone who wants to chime in here. Um, what is one piece of automation that or automation tech, I should say, that brands think they need but don't actually need? Is there anything that comes to mind there? Or maybe Pashmina, have you taken a demo from some company
Yeah,
and like this is vaporware or unnecessary?
yeah. I mean, right now, at least, I have been very wary of the automated chatbots, just because, like, for most premium brands, I think it's still a mistake when somebody's spending as much as they do on chocolate as a gift. The conversation is part of the brand experience, and to talk to a human, especially when something, on the occasion it arrives melted, or it's delayed, or they have a question about a recommendation. That's the exact moment, we can earn loyalty, is by talking to them and not automating that away, because I think an agent would just burn that relationship. um, so that's one I would say is not necessary. There is a question here about, if they think it's going to be largely automated. I don't know. I think the fantasy is robots everywhere, but I think, in reality, I don't think the floor gets more automated. I think the decisions around it too. So I think maybe the pick part of pick, pack, and ship can get fully automated, and those machines are getting cheaper and easier to finance. But there's a lot of it is just about coordination, and you still need a human to kind of manage the warehouse and manage the process.
Well, you want to get me started on automation. We'll go down a rabbit hole there. I'm
Uh,
not a big fan because I think it's too narrow. I think the humanoid robots are going to be very impactful, but that's a few years out.
Yeah.
um, Charles, thanks for fact checking me. I put in the wrong CloudX in the
Yeah.
chat, so I've deleted that, and now the URL you included is the right CloudX systems. Apologies for that. Um, we do have a couple questions in the Q&A section. Anthony is fancy with identifying the Q&A functionality and not putting in the chat, so we appreciate that. We've got a couple questions here from Anthony. We'll start with those. The discussion has been around the chatbot, as you just suggested, Pashmina. But have you looked at agentic voice systems like 11 Labs? Second question he had, what tools are you using to build Claude, ChatGPT, or more vibe code agents like Replit? Yeah, I see Kevin nodding his head as the engineer here. So yeah, feel free to address either or both of those.
So for us, for engineering, we're using Claude Code and Claude. So Uh, we had tried Copilot with ChatGPT, and we really found that Claude Code really was the solution for us. And we're really working that into our entire development lifecycle now. But yeah, if you're looking for my recommendation on what to use for any type of development, Claude Code is would be my go-to.
We also have a number, like we've got a whole group of non-developers that are doing vibe coding, and they started in ChatGPT and
Yeah.
evolved. Now they're starting to move a little bit more towards cloud code, but they still like ChatGPT heavily. And then we've got this, we do have an agentic AI program going on as well that is geared mostly to operations. So like routing information going to the system that's like so repetitive and like no value add. It's like, hey, I got to log into the portal. I've got to put up some information for the department store. There's also department store logs that we do that are like, why are we doing this manually? So the agentic, so there's really big three different components, and we're sort of leveraging all three to continue this evolution.
Right. One other question came in from Alp. He asked, with AI becoming embedded into everything we use, do you think the SaaS model will weaken over time, specifically in logistics? Will companies continue relying on platforms, or will they start building their own internal systems like WMS tailored to their workflows and data? It's a great question.
Gary.
It's one that we talk about daily. I
Yeah.
don't know if you want to jump in, Charles.
No, no, it's all right. I mean, like, look, as we started developing it, there's some softwares that like you'll never get an update for it, right? So in years, we may not, when we might get one update a year, and we're like, well, what is this software? How hard is it to replicate? And we have about a dozen different softwares to the tune of $500,000 a year savings for just my subsidiary that we're like three or four in UAT, right? User acceptance testing, so
Yep.
almost ready to go live. So, it's hard not to look at us doing our own software programs where we were buying it before and not say, shoot, we're building a WMS and trying to go to market. Um, is there a value in SaaS software? I will say that generally speaking, anything that's extremely complicated or has a high regulatory, like stuff with hazmat. Well, I don't know that I want to build all that. Anything, somebody said, hey, you should knock off ADP. And I'm like, oh my God, there's 51 different sets of regulations there that you have to follow. Those are
Yeah.
highly complex systems. But then the comment is like bartender. I'm like, oh yeah, QR code. I mean, code, UPCs. I'm like, oh, we haven't got an update on that in 20 years.
Yeah,
So
I
yeah,
was at one of the AI conventions, and the term "sespocalypse" was mentioned, and it's a thing. There are, if you're a smaller SaaS company and it can be replicated, it is happening. But if, as Charles said, if you're a larger company that's a little more complex, you have that, it's a more defensible product. So I think you will see a narrowing of the SaaS industry, but there's definitely going to be the ones that last.
Yeah. Charles, a quick question for you, since you've got a lot of experience in um, private equity, M&A. You've been part of a number of large businesses. I'm curious, where do you see the smartest money being invested right now in AI-driven logistics transformation?
where do I think the smartest money is being driven? Good question. I think it's hard because I don't know that the monetization of AI is entirely here. Um, so, where's the smart money? Get your data in order. If you want to spend money, get your data warehouse set up, get all your data streaming in there, because that's the way you're going to be able to leverage this as it really starts to take off and really see you're going to really see the monetization of this. I think there's a lot of long shots out there. You know, hopefully annoy anybody too much, but like the Stewards, ShipBobs, the Shipmonks, who are all VC backed startups that are technology driven around 3PL. 3PL is sort of commoditized, right? I don't think they're getting the multiples they need. So saying where is the smart money going or where is the smart money not going is hard to say and will obviously flesh out further. I don't know that there's any super solid like spot right now. I think we're all still trying to figure it out. So if you got to spend money, spend it on cleaning up your data and getting it in order so that you can use the stuff that will save you money in the future.
That's a fair answer. We probably have time for one or two more questions. I do see a new one in the Q&A, but if anyone else has a question, feel free to pop it in there, and we should be able to get to a couple of them. Um, I got a quick one for Kevin. Uh, so we know that AI learns from data, right? And we've probably mentioned data 100 times so far in this chat. Um, so, kind of going to Charles's most recent point here around getting your data set or your data intact, I should say. If a brand's historical data is a mess, does plugging in an AI, like, are there AI tools you can plug in to improve it? Or, what Charles is sort of suggesting, is there like a whole project where you need humans to clean up the data to then give it to an AI tool to start making business intelligence or business decisions from? Like, how does that Ferris wheel, so to speak, work?
Yeah, I mean, 100% agree. You need to have the data in shape in order to do this, or else you're just going to get terrible results, and they'll be expensive results.
You got a magic
Um,
wand? Because I
yeah,
want
there's
some too.
no magic wand. And yeah, you really are going to need to have humans that do put this. You can't have an AI put your data in order for AI to use it, right? That's the chicken and the egg. But in this case, we know which one's coming first. You need to have the data first, and the people are really going to be. You need a team that understands how to structure it properly, the type of database that it goes into. If you're going to vectorize your information so that it can be used with semantic searches and things like that. I don't want to get too technical, but you really need to have your data set up specifically for AI. And there's a lot of companies that are trying to become quote unquote AI native companies. And I don't know whether they understand how deep that needs to go before you can get to that point, as far as setting up the infrastructure for it.
I appreciate that. Maybe one final question here, and then I just dropped in the LinkedIn's for the three panelists. I think these are the right ones. Uh, um, Certainly, I know they would welcome you reaching out to them, and happy to share their emails, after the session for more questions, and to connect offline. But maybe we'll ask James Herman's question here. How do you see, and maybe I'll direct it to Pashmina first, at least. How do you see AI impacting inventory management and optimization in the coming years?
It already has. So I think using AI, we have created these deterministic formulas, and we have it updated in real time to determine what inventory we should be pushing, whether it's slow moving, expiring, high margin. And I mean, I think by the end of the year, we'll see that our net margin has improved by a couple points, if not more, because we're able to do this faster and in real time. And again, echoing what we've been talking about and said 100 times now, data, data, data. If there's one key takeaway everyone who's watching can get from this webinar, it is really the data hygiene is super important, and it can't just be like a one-time process. It just needs to be part of your day-to-day and how you work and how your team works, and you need to hold everyone accountable to it. I think that's probably the thing I struggle with the most. Like, I am championing clean data, but the value doesn't get carried through to the last or the person standing on the warehouse floor, not realizing that one missing thing from him in terms of the input can kind of stop the train from moving on, and it just stops everything. So if there's one key takeaway, it's about making sure that that's part of your process. And if it's not, it's changing your current processes to make sure that you continue to maintain that data hygiene.
I appreciate that. Anthony, we're not going to be able to get to your question, but feel free to message Charles or Kevin after. I'm sure they'll love to connect with you. But I like to be sensitive to time here, and we are coming up on the roughly 50-minute mark. But yeah, thanks everyone for the conversation. Thanks for all the great questions that we've had this afternoon or this morning. Thanks, Charles and Kevin and Pashmina, for sharing your expertise, for taking time out this morning to participate. And of course, a huge thank you to our sponsor, Bergen Logistics. I've shared LinkedIn, everyone's LinkedIn in the chat here, so feel free to connect with them afterwards or send me a message and I'd be happy to connect you. Everyone who attended today and those who registered and were not able to make it live, the full episode will be up on our YouTube channel shortly, and we'll be sharing more shorts and snippets on our socials over the next couple of days. So thanks everyone for attending and participating, and look forward to seeing you guys at next month's Matt's Chats. Have a great afternoon, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you,
Thank
Matt.
thank
Thanks, guys.
you. Thanks, Matt.
Take care. Bye-bye.